Imagine suffering from anxiety and depression and not even knowing it. That's exactly what happened to our guest on today's show. So many men and women are suffering in silence just because they don't know what the problem is. But we're going to be talking all about it today as Elise Roberts shares her story. You're listening to episode 25 of
The Gold Mine Podcast.
As women, we have to invest that time in getting to understand who we are.
Be ambitious, be bold, create the life of your dreams. This is the Gold Mine Podcast with your host, Adrian Dion.
Hey, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of the Gold Mine Podcast. This is our 25th episode, and it just so happens that it comes out on September 25th. So I think that's pretty cool and pretty special. And so for this special episode, we do have a very special guest. Her name is Elise Roberts, and I'm so excited to share her story with you guys. Elise has been working in TV news for more than 15 years. She began her journey in her hometown of Atlanta, Georgia, and she's worked in several different places in several different positions, including working as an anchor and reporter in North Carolina. She was also a reporter during Hurricane Katrina in the Mississippi Gulf Coast. She's also worked as an executive producer in Montgomery, Alabama, and she's currently a producer for CNN's HLN. She's had an amazing career and has had the privilege of interviewing so many celebrities, including Auntie Oprah, Michael Jordan, Nancy Grace, Nancy Pelosi, Maya Angelou, Bill Cosby, and Kim Kardashian. The list goes on and on. She's been featured in so many magazines such as Essence, The Every Girl, and Style Bistro. She's been recognized by the NAACP, Associated Press, the Boys and Girls Club of the Gulf Coast. She just has so many different accolades. And so you would probably say to yourself, how does someone that has such an amazing career like this even have or even experience anxiety and depression? Well, she's going to be sharing her story on today's episode. So let's just jump right in. Hi, Elise. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for taking this time to do this and share your story. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you.
I was reading your bio and it says that you've been in TV for more than 15 years. That's crazy.
Right. I know it's dating, right?
How was your experience with that?
Well, I'm still in TV now, but I started long time ago, like you said, 15 years ago, and I knew I always wanted to work in TV.
Okay.
People go through these things where they're like, oh, maybe I want to be a teacher, or maybe I want to be this or that. I always knew that I wanted to be in TV, and particularly I knew I wanted to be a TV news anchor because I grew up watching this anchor here in Atlanta. My family, my grandparents especially, are news junkies. So at a certain time after dinner, if I was over there, that's what we'd be doing. We would be watching the news. We would watch Martha every single night, and they would wake up, they'd read the paper cover to cover. So news was like ingrained in me,
Yeah.
So seeing someone, a brown woman, being so eloquent and giving me my news of the day, just like stuck. So I was like, I gotta figure out how to get in TV, and that's where my journey started. As early as like I say 11, I think I knew.
Wow.
I would read to my stuffed animals, my dolls. I would try to do the announcements at school, like anything I could do to be newsy, if you will. And I studied journalism and I studied marketing. I was a double major as a backup because I heard things about TV. I heard that it was hard to get into. And I heard that they look for a particular look. And I honestly didn't know if I had that look. I didn't. And so there is where the pressure started. Before I even finished college, the pressure started.
Wow. Now that you're saying it, I can just now imagine. I guess I kind of forgot about, nowadays it seems like everybody is so welcome and it doesn't matter your skin tone, your size, shape or whatever. But just a few years ago, I would even say like 5 years ago, that wasn't even the case.
No,
and so
absolutely not.
probably this pressure of image really.
Image plays a big role in TV, and it still does.
Mm-hmm.
And even more so now, because people can't be so overt, if you will. They can't just outright tell you what they're looking for, what they're not looking for. You can't do that. You kind of have to tiptoe around it.
True.
So I don't know that I'm competing with a petite blonde, girl from California, or if we already have one brown girl, we don't need two brown girls.
Right. Okay.
So that was the reality back then. Plus, I'm not a super small girl. I was always a little bit on the thicker side. I'm 10, 12. So going into the business, I would send out my reel. I would send out my tape over and over again because you have to make like this resume tape. I had 7 internships. So I was on it.
Oh my gosh.
You were going to have to make it. I was trying to make it very tough for someone to tell me no, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got the book smart. I'm going to get this experience, and you're going to welcome me in after I graduate. Well, it didn't happen that way. It took me a year to find my first job, and my first job was not on camera. My first job was a news assistant. I didn't even know what that person did, but it was like a gopher. It was a gopher. It was the person who did whatever needed to be done in the newsroom. So I was like, and it was part-time. It was part-time. So here I am moving to Macon, Georgia, which isn't that far away from home here in Atlanta. It's about an hour and a half. But still, I'm getting an apartment. I have bills to pay, and I'm not making any money. So I'm still having to rely on my family for this big dream that I have that they don't really understand because they want me to be an attorney.
Yeah.
You know? So I have a college degree now, and I'm working part-time. Being a news assistant, it just didn't make sense to anyone else. But to me, it was, I'm going to get this job. Long story short, within 6 months, I started associate producing because someone figured out, oh, she knows how to write. And then I became a producer shortly after that. Within the first year, I learned how to shoot, and there happened to be breaking news right outside of the station overnight, and I was on the overnight shift. I grabbed a camera, ran outside, shot it, put a package together, and my news director gave me an opportunity to be on camera, and that started my journey.
That's
It was
amazing.
crazy. It was bananas.
That is crazy, but
Yeah.
you were there at the right place at the right time.
Right.
You didn't stop. You didn't say, well, I'm not going to take this position because I have a degree. So, this means I'm not right.
Yeah.
I'm too good for a part-time position, but that
Mhm.
part-time position allowed you the opportunity to be in the right place at the right time to show what you had. And look at that. You haven't
It was
looked back.
so hard. And, I was working with people my same age who had just graduated when I graduated, but they were doing what I wanted to do. So in some ways, it hurt to see that because I'm like, I'm better than this person. I know I can do this job.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line was it wasn't my time. But
Mm.
you innately put so much pressure on yourself because you're thinking, I can do it. I can do it. I
Mm-hmm.
know what I can do is better than what I'm seeing. But if it's not your time, it's not your time.
It's
And
not
it
your
took
time.
me a long time, as we'll discuss in this conversation. It took me a long time to stop trying to make things happen on my time.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Girl,
Yeah.
we can stop the interview right here. You've already just dropped some gems. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So when I look at you, someone who's so successful, you're beautiful, you've done things like only people would dream of. When you said that you struggled with anxiety and depression, I'm just like, how?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
It doesn't make sense. I didn't even know what it looked like. I think there is this misconception about what depression looks like. And for me, I wasn't at home crying, sad, wanting to do any harm to myself. And that's what I thought depression was.
Right.
How it all started was I was on vacation with family. I had gone through a horrible breakup with someone who I was very close to walking down the aisle with, like very close. And I moved to a new state and was having fun with my family. I'm having fun. I'm relaxing. I'm in California, in LA, doing some shopping. We get in this car, and the car just started closing in on me. I was in the back seat. Nothing was happening. Again, I'm having a good time. So if you haven't had an anxiety or panic attack, it feels like, or what you would think to be, a heart attack because you can't catch your breath. you feel like you just can't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I thought was happening. Luckily, I'm with my aunts, and the driver pulls over, lets us out, because I'm like, I got to get out of this car. Got to get out. And my aunt had them before. And she was like, you're having a panic attack. And I was like, no, 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 I can't breathe. I can't breathe. She's like, the fact that you're talking to me is a good sign. But in my head, which is what anxiety is all about, was I'm about to die. I cannot breathe. Something is wrong with me. And so I began my battle then in 2015, in June of 2015, with anxiety. And a friend of mine said, you need to go and see a therapist. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And there's this stigma in the Black community in particular that therapy is for crazy folks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not at all what it is. And a friend of mine actually broke it down to me, and it made perfect sense. She was like, do you have a dentist? And I said, yeah, I have a dentist. She was like, do you go to the dentist just because your tooth is hurting? I'm like, no, I go to the dentist for a checkup, just like I go to the doctor. Go to the doctor for a checkup. I go to the dentist for a checkup. Someone needs to check on your mental health. You need to have someone check on your mental health, because of the fact that every 2 years, I was moving, Adrienne. Every 2 years, I'm moving to a new state.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exhausting. That's stressful. They say that one of the most stressful things you do is move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it alone, not knowing anyone. So I was just compounding stress on top of stress on top of stress, but I was just managing it, right? Add to that a breakup, an embarrassing breakup at that, because I'm a public figure, mind you, and he was too. So you have that, and I'm just dealing with all this stuff. And at some point, it has to come out. And it came out that day in the back of that cab.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I can relate so much to you when you were saying that for people who've never had an anxiety attack, it really feels like you're having a heart attack.
It does.
The first time I ever had one, I was and I didn't know what it was. Like I feel like people, so I work in the medical field. I'm a respiratory therapist. And so a lot of times I work in the ED, and we would have people come in and they would just be like, going crazy and like, oh, they're having an anxiety attack. And I'm just thinking that's for the people who just have a little mental issue.
Right.
But I was at work, and all of a sudden I felt like my heart was just beating out of my chest. I thought I was going to like die.
Yeah, it's scary.
My heart rate, when I put the pulse ox on me, my heart was racing like 180. And that only really pushed me like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I'm having a heart attack. I was having chest pain. I was sweating. I could hardly breathe. And I was like, something is wrong with me. And so for a lot of people that may be listening, it's not just people who are having an anxiety attack. They just think it in their head. No, when you think things in your mind and in your brain, it tells the rest of your body what to do. And so your body reacts. The heart starts to go.
What your mind is thinking.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you actually are having symptoms. So it's not, you don't just say, oh, this person is crazy and take it, move it on.
Or tell someone, calm down, relax.
Right.
You can't relax.
Right.
Because you are now in fight or flight mode.
Exactly.
Exactly. They don't get that if they don't know anyone who's dealt with it or haven't dealt with it themselves.
Yeah, it's really, really real. So I just wanted to bring out that point. It's really real. For those who have never experienced it, don't take it lightly. I ended up in the ED that night, and they did find like palpitations with my heart, but they did say, okay, you are having an anxiety attack. And even after they said that, now I'm thinking, okay, so now I'm crazy. Like, what's happening?
That's it. So now you're worried about the next time you're going to have an anxiety attack. Let me tell you something. Since then, I have not had another one, but I don't go a day without a little bit of nerves of that fear. And that's all anxiety is fear. So through therapy, I also learned that anxiety is the cousin to depression. And I'm like, oh, well, no, I'm not depressed, honey. I'm good. I'm good. Life is great. I'm okay. I'm not depressed. I don't want to hurt myself. I'm a child of God. And they had to break it down and say, well, that depression doesn't look the same for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes depression is just isolation and preferring to always be by yourself. And that was definitely me.
Oh, wow.
Because I was just taking on so much stuff. I didn't want to burden anyone else with my stuff. And no one had said I was being a burden. No one had said anything negative, but I was taking all of that on. So therapy really, really helped with that. And I encourage everyone, if you don't have a therapist, you need to get a therapist. And you don't have to see them every day, every week. You can go and do check-ins when you're going through something big, like getting ready to get married or getting ready to get divorced or moving across the country or doing a career shift. There's no way that you should try to take that on alone, you know?
Yeah. So since you said depression doesn't look like the same for everybody, can you explain a little bit more about your symptoms? Because it seemed definitely not like the norm that
Yeah.
most people would think.
Yeah, mine definitely was isolation. Mine was just wanting to be by myself. Because I'm now dealing with this anxiety and I'm so worried about the next time I have that panic attack. I just didn't want to be out.
Okay.
Around anyone else. So I would make excuses if someone's like, "Oh, Elise, let's go have dinner." Oh, I got something else to do, when I really didn't. I just wanted to go home and I wanted to be by myself. And I did that for a long time. And my therapist said that that's a symptom of depression.
Oh, okay.
It had such a negative connotation in my mind, but I think now with more celebrities talking about their battles, with a lot of people just talking about real life struggles and people becoming more open to listening to it, I think now is the time for us to really have that open dialogue and talk to someone, because life gets really, really hard. It does. It
Yeah.
does. And there's no manual. There's you know, you don't know what to do, you don't know how to fix things, but you want to fix things. And sometimes instead of asking for help, we get in this shell. And we shouldn't get in a shell. We should, you know, tell someone whom we love, or tell someone who can be, you know, totally subjective and or objective, I should say, and just really tell you what they think without knowing who you are or what the situation is. They can just give you some real life advice, and that's what I had to do.
Yeah. I like that you said that you were isolated and that you felt like you were a burden. You didn't want to be a burden to other people. And I think that a lot of times, us as women especially, we feel like we can just carry the world. Like
Yeah.
we have to just be okay. There are
Yeah.
so many things that's going on, but no, to be strong means that I can just take it all and
Take it all in, just suck it up,
just
through.
keep pushing through.
Yeah.
And that, like how you said, that was one of the best things I love about therapy. My dad is a pastor, and so everybody around me and knew how I should be acting. But to be able to talk to somebody that knows nothing about you,
Yes,
is not biased, is in any way,
Yeah.
can really tell you, exactly how it is without, you thinking, oh, this person is just saying this because, this or that.
Yeah.
Therapy allows you that opportunity to be able to hear, without anything
Any
else.
judgment.
Yeah.
And then, with us, sometimes there's this thing where it's like, pray it away, just pray it away. Listen, that's the first person I talk to every morning. But God has also blessed me with tools like a therapist, tools like friends who have a listening ear. So, don't be afraid to get outside your church, go to the church, but get outside your church and get that additional help.
Yeah.
God has blessed us with so many resources and so many different people we can talk to. And there's no reason that any one person has to feel like that they have to take everything on, because that's just too much pressure. It's too much.
It is. It is. I love like everything that you're saying right now, because it's so true. And I know that a lot of people wouldn't correlate being alone with depression, or just thinking, I just have a lot going on. But the thing about it, and just bringing church in it, We know that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. If he can get you
Absolutely.
alone by yourself, he can work on you. He can tell you
Absolutely.
things. He can, put more negative things in your mind. And so by you being alone, you don't have to tell everybody your business, but
Right.
at the same time, you don't want to get so far along. And that's how it happened to me. I was so alone. I felt like nobody could understand what I was going through. It was just a dark period. I was diagnosed with like lupus at the time. My dad had a stroke. Just seemed like everything that was so sure started to just crumble. And I didn't know what the future held. Like I was so afraid. And it was just so many things that kept coming to my mind about, oh, this is going to happen. Or, I also like developed this weird cholinergic urticaria, which I didn't know what it was for a long time. And it was just where I would just break out in hives, depending on temp. But because I'm in the hospital and I see so much of people just having like these anaphylactic shocks, I was thinking it was going to happen to me. So it was just me living every day thinking something bad is going to happen.
That
This is
is
going to be
anxiety.
it.
That's what anxiety looks like. And for anybody who doesn't know, what you just described is anxiety. You're not in the present moment. You're always thinking about the past and you're always worried about the future. That's anxiety. It is. It is. And everyone deals with some bout of it, just different people at different levels. And it's all about how you manage it. And it is a day-to-day struggle. But I find that, and I don't know if this is the case for you as well, the more you talk about it, the more you realize we're more alike than we are different. You know?
Yeah.
And who knew that me having this conversation with you, that you also dealt with it. Someone else do it and say, I've dealt with that too. So there's no reason not to talk about it. And even talking about it with my loved ones, I found that they were so much more understanding because my anxiety comes out in closed spaces. So when I can't be in control, like on an airplane, like when I'm riding as a passenger in a car, when the elevator doors close, my heart rate starts to go up and I start thinking about the what ifs, what if I can't get out of here? What if that? And I just have to take control of my mind. And it is a constant practice and learning that the worst isn't going to happen, Elise. Relax.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's so interesting to me that's kind of some of the triggers for you. Did you learn all about the triggers in therapy?
I didn't. I learned that through trial and error.
Oh, okay.
Remember, that's how my panic attack happened. I was in the back of the car. So now I associate, me not having control, me being in the backseat of a car with panic, with, I don't have control of this situation. The worst is going to happen. I don't want to have another panic attack. And like I said, I have not had another one since then, but that fear is always there. But I've told my friends and they totally understand.
Yeah.
So, it's like, girl, if I need to pull over, let me know. My boyfriend's like, if you want to drive, you can drive. It's not a big deal. Where for me, it was a little bit of shame and embarrassment because I don't feel these things all the time. This is like once every blue moon. But when I feel it, I would try to hide it. And instead, I've opened up and I've told my family, listen, we all have stuff, right? This is my thing. This is my ask me anything you want, but I'm dealing with it. I'm managing it. And it's getting better every single day. But just help me out. And everyone has been super helpful in that regard. But there was this embarrassment about dealing with anxiety and at one point depression because I was like, how dare I complain? How dare I tell someone about my problems? Look at my life. Look at how full it is. Look how blessed I've been with just things. My health overall is great. My finances are great. Like, look how blessed I am. How dare I complain when there are children, when there are people dying of disease? So that was the burden I carried. Like, I'm just going to be quiet because I don't want to complain. I don't want to complain about it. But my issues are still my issues. And they deserve some attention from someone. And so I have to, get off on my soapbox and get out of my own head, which is always the case, and tell someone, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this, and I may need some help here and there. And there's nothing wrong.
Wow. So I was just going to ask you what kept you silent so long from like talking about it. But that's so interesting that it's because there's this guilt almost
Yep.
of how good your life is. So I shouldn't speak about anything that
Right.
I'm struggling with because
Yeah. That's exactly
that's,
what it was. That's the word, guilt. There was guilt.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I was just actually studying about shame. The the Greek word for shame is nakedness, and it was talking about in the Bible how you know Adam and Eve hid from their nakedness, which was basically their shame,
For shame.
shame
Yeah.
and guilt. That's all correlated, and I think by you even saying that, you were hiding from that, even not talking about it because of that guilt that you felt.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk about any of that in therapy?
I absolutely did. I absolutely talked about that. And, my therapist would ask me questions. Oh, and let me tell you about my therapy process. It was hard for me to find a therapist. I
Okay.
would go to a therapist and leave because, again, I had these ideas of what I thought therapy looked like. I thought I was going to be lying back on the couch. I was going to tell someone my problems, and they were going to tell me exactly how to fix it. That's not what therapy is. So, when they start asking questions and digging up old stuff, it's like, I don't want to talk about that. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
there anymore. But it's a part of therapy. Therapy is making you think through your life and think through to get to a resolution. It's not someone saying, okay, go out of here and make a left, and then you'll be
Mm-hmm.
nation. It's like, what can I help you do to get to where you want to be, and asking those tough questions. So needless to say, I went through a couple therapists, which wasn't fun at all because, I'm needing some help, but I'm not liking any therapist. And, it was, do I want a woman therapist? Do I want a black therapist? Do I want a young therapist? Do I have enough experience to really be telling me about life? Or do I want an older therapist? So that's just me over analyzing everything, which I do
Yeah.
anyway. But I did. I talked to my therapist about the guilt, the shame that I had. And, there were questions asked like, what makes you think you're not worthy of having someone care for you?
Mm.
And that's what it boiled down to.
Mm. And it's
Why did
deep seated, like it goes
that?
back to things.
It's deep seated, and it went back to some family issues and some other people who in my family who are very close to me who've had health issues and dealt with some very big struggles that I've witnessed. And so for me, it was like, well, I can't complain about my little episodes when this person has been through everything under the sun. But my therapist was like, why? Why don't you think you're worthy of someone taking the same kind of care and attention for you? Because that's what
Mm-hmm.
we all need at the end of the day. We all need that love. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
tough. Tough stuff.
Yeah, but isn't it so worth it? Like,
So,
first of all, I want to commend you on being so self-aware. Like, my question, I guess, would be to most people would try a therapist and then they would leave. Was it
yeah.
your support system that made you continue to keep going until you found someone, or what was it?
Honestly, Andrew, it wasn't my, because remember, I wasn't telling anybody about what
Mm,
I was dealing with. It was sheer motivation of me wanting to feel better.
mm,
The only thing that made me keep going, because I wasn't telling anyone at the time. So when I say I would leave a therapist and go get another one, it wasn't the next day. It
yeah.
might have taken me months. Like,
Okay.
I'm not doing this. This is dumb anyway. I'm not doing this. Let me go to church. Let me go pray about it. Let me journal about it, because I do all of those things.
Yeah.
And then, I need some help. I need some real help. And I would get back in the cycle of trying to find another therapist. But it was just the sheer will of my wanting to feel better. That was it. I got tired of not feeling like myself. And I was like,
Mm,
it can't be my new normal. It can't be, because I'm
mm,
not happy. I'm not happy in this constant fight with myself. I mean, that's hard to fight yourself.
yeah.
Feel like you're losing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. because it's a mental battle. It's one of the worst things. I feel like, that's mostly what sickness is about. But when you have like when you're fighting mentally, you are fighting against yourself, and your mind is going to win, which means that you're losing also, and so that fight is so hard. But I commend you on saying, I deserve to be happy, because there are a lot of people out there that just think that sacrificing who they are, not feeling good, that's almost just like that's love for somebody else, or kind of putting themselves on back burner. A lot of people struggle with that. And that's just not a good thing. You can't help others if you are so empty. If you are sad, you can't be your best self for anybody else.
What's
And
the saying?
so
Put your face mask. You got to put the face mask on first. Got to put yours on first.
yes,
Because I can't be good to you if I'm not good to myself. I can't love you or expect love from you if I don't love myself. I can't.
Exactly.
And that is a problem that can transfer into your relationships with family, with friends, as it did with work. That stuff follows you. It follows you. And while people may not know exactly what you're dealing with, that energy, it feeds. It really feeds, and it shows itself. It shows its ugly head.
Yeah, it always will. Well, what advice would you give to anybody else that may be struggling with any of the same thing, whether it's anxiety or depression? Like, what advice would you give them?
I'm a reader, so which can sometimes be a bad thing, believe it or not, because I will read everything under the sun about an issue. So if you're a researcher like myself, get the tools and read. There's some breathing techniques that you can do. There's a lot of different resources, because this is very, very normal. So while you may feel like you're on this island by yourself, you're not. You're there with so many other people. If you stood up in a crowded room, majority of the room would stand up with you and say, oh, I'm dealing with that, or I dealt with that, or I know someone who is. So don't try to take it all on by yourself. Get a therapist. Get a therapist, just because if you're watching this, if you're hearing this, and you aren't dealing with anxiety or depression, get a therapist anyway.
Yes.
Because you're going to be making some life decisions. You are making some big life decisions. And what you're doing is managing stress. And some people go their entire lives and never deal with it. And some people don't. So some people do. So I say get a therapist anyway, so you can talk through some of those decisions. I journal a lot for just as an outlet when I don't want to pick up the phone and call a friend, or people aren't available. I write, and it's interesting to flip back 2 years ago and see what I've written and see how far I've come. I don't do it every day. I do it, if there's a big life moment, whether good, bad, or indifferent. Sometimes I just make lists, but it's so good to see my growth and celebrate myself. And I think that's what it comes down to. Celebrate yourself. You have to, because, we're doing the best that we can. And it also teaches other people how to celebrate you when they see you celebrating yourself. So those are the things I would tell people to do.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that if people haven't already, don't already have a therapist, they would be interested in knowing how did you find a therapist? What process did you take?
I Googled. And like I said, that was years ago. That was a few years ago. But now you can do therapy on your phone. I saw a commercial today, and I wish I remembered the name, but everybody's pretty, hip when it comes to technology. There is an app where you can sit here just like we are in FaceTime with a therapist.
Yeah, in the comfort of your own home.
In the comfort of your own home. So you have this thing about, I don't want to be cooped up in an office, or, oh, I don't have time. You can go on your lunch break and sit in your car and FaceTime or Skype or Google Duo or whatever you use with your therapist. There's no excuse at this point. And you can have as many or as few sessions as you need.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Maybe we can look up some links, maybe find some links. I can put it in the show notes for some, for like, I want to try to find that what you were talking about.
Yeah, I can look too.
Okay.
but it was a good resource to, like,
And I know, like, what's the name of that? It's a podcast, Therapy for
Therapy
Black
for Black
Girls.
Girls. Yep.
That's another one. Okay.
Yep.
And it's relatively affordable too, because
Right.
my lead Teal, she has, I'm gonna find that one too, where you can actually find it's an app as well, I think, and you can find different ones just based
Yeah,
on, like you were saying, if you want a woman, if you want somebody that's black, if you want a
absolutely.
man,
And I
and
think she even said that she does phone sessions with her
mhm,
therapist. I think she has one of those situations that's very unique. So people are, very in tune with us being a more of an on the go culture of sorts. So I think therapists work with you. Most insurance covers therapy now.
yeah,
um or if not, there are affordable options. I think she puts out some information about
yeah,
things that's affordable. If you don't have insurance, you can even go to, like, the local health department, and they will get you to where you need to be. So there are so many resources. Don't think you can't afford it. Don't think you don't have time for it, because there's so many different options. Listen, my schedule is nuts if I told people what time I go to sleep and wake up in the morning. I have to work at 2 a.m. some days, and then
yeah,
day I get to work at 6 a.m. My schedule is all over the place, but I will always, always make time to take care of myself, which I wasn't doing. And now that is priority number one. Not making any money, not climbing up the success ladder, not anything else. I have to take care of me first.
yeah.
So as long as we keep that in mind and prioritize and put ourselves at the top of the list, you can find time. You can find
That's
time.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your goal for moving forward? What are you like, what are you doing these days? How are you managing everything?
Well, I'm one day at a time. I'm getting older, so family and marriage is definitely on the brain, and hopefully there'll be some developments there very, very soon. Uh,
Developments. I love the news
some
talk.
developments. We're not dropping any hints, but there have definitely been some conversations, and we're on the same page for that. So that is because I've always put my career first, always, and it made it very hard for my personal relationships. So I want to try something different, and it's time. I definitely want to be a wife, and maybe one day a mother. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about all kinds of stuff when it comes to what I want my legacy to be and what I want my family to be like, whether it's a family of just the two of us or the family of five. I don't know. But I definitely think that that's next for me. As far as my career, TV has been interesting. It's been interesting. Our current political climate is changing things for journalists. There's a war against journalists, and I
Hmm.
hate to be so, like, in your face about it, but anytime people are shooting up newsrooms, journalists are dying while they're out on stories. There's definitely a war in this culture, and we're just here to put out information. You do what you want to do with that information, but that's just what we're here for. So I'm looking into a different side of TV, if you will. I'm still at CNN's HLN right now, and I love my job. I love what I do, but I'm also business savvy, and so I'm very interested in the business side of TV. I'm very interested in diversity when it comes to TV, making it easier for people like me to get a job, these producing jobs, these executive producer jobs, because there's not many people who look like me who get that prime time spot as an executive producer. There's just not.
Yeah.
So I would love to be a decision maker when it comes to things like that. Because now I have the tools and the experience of being on the other side and being on camera my whole life.
Hmm.
Now it's time for me to shake some things up and get behind the scenes and see what kind of moves I can make. So that's what's next for me. Yeah.
That is awesome. That's awesome. I'm
Okay.
excited for you.
Thank you.
See
Thank you. And I'm gonna try
where
to
you
do it
go.
stress free. I'm gonna try to do it as stress free.
Yes. We have to. We have
Yeah.
to. And I'm so glad that you chose the Go Mom podcast to share your
Yeah.
story. I know that it's going to change so many lives, because there are so many people who are also living and experiencing what you experienced, but in silence. And so now that they're able to see that they're not alone, I'm hoping that this will inspire them to go and get the help that they need.
Absolutely. I think you have a great product. I fished around and listened to some other podcasts. And I think what you're doing is very great. And I think that it's more about uplifting and empowering people and not belittling or shutting anyone down or focusing on the negative. So I definitely want to be a part of anything like that.
Well,
Sure.
thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to put in the show link, the show notes, links to where they can find you, kind of
Yeah,
keep
I'm
up
all
with
over
your
the place.
journey.
Okay.
Yeah, you are everywhere. I love it.
I'm all over the place.
And
Yes.
you are super inspirational, but it's so good to now, like, social media, you can see people who are on TV and you can see what their lives are like.
Yeah.
You're reachable, so if anybody has questions for you, maybe who want to follow in the path that you did, they're able to reach out and talk to you about that.
Absolutely. I always tell people, I try to get back to people as quickly as I can. I welcome that somebody had to help me.
Yeah.
So I'm here for any insight I can offer.
Yeah, she's super funny, so
Oh,
inspirational,
God.
beautiful, and I know you guys are going to enjoy following her journey. Join me because I'm going to be doing the same thing. And I just want to thank you again. I really, really enjoy this.
Thank you. I did too. Thank you so much.
All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. Elise is amazing. She's a beautiful soul, and I hope that she was able to show you guys that, if you are experiencing any of these symptoms, or you're just not feeling like yourself, that it is okay to go and reach out for help. I have put all of the resources that we've come up with together in the show notes, so make sure you check them out. We want to live healthy lives so that we can enjoy our journey to fulfilling our destiny. All right, you guys, make sure to leave a review, rate the show, and comment. Make sure you show Elise some love. I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.